Silicon Slope Summit is Utah's original and longest-running grassroots tech event. It provides entrepreneurs, startups, and leaders the resources and community they need to succeed. With the pandemic behind us, we're excited to bring Silicon Slope Summit back to its original January dates in conjunction with the Sundance Film Festival. We have some unbelievable news. Silicon Slope Summit is free for all Utahns for the first time ever. You heard that right. Silicon Slope Summit is now free. For those looking for an upgraded experience, we are also offering VIP tickets for just $95. Thanks to our partners, sponsors, and government leaders, Silicon Slope Summit is the most accessible tech and startup event in the world. Summit will be hosted in multiple locations throughout the week in both Utah and Salt Lake Valley. There will also be a Startup Alley at Summit this year, where startups and entrepreneurs can meet with investors from around the world to pitch their ideas, receive feedback, and promote what they're building. Of course, we'll be bringing in world-class leaders and speakers, as we have in the past, but we'll also be hosting specific tracks and bringing attendees together for curated networking in a way never done before. You don't want to miss this year's summit. To register, buy VIP tickets, learn about sponsorship, and apply for your startup to be part of Startup Alley, go to siliconslopes.com/summit.
How did you get connected with Brandon?
So it was 2017. He was looking for a CFO accounting services, and he got referred to me through some common relationships. And
Oh, really?
and yeah, I met with him, took his work on board, and then went to the course soon after to see what his business was all about. And yeah, the rest is history.
He's a good guy. He's a very good guy.
He's a big part of my story.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. When did you start Nimble?
So Nimble itself started in 2018 as an entity,
Okay.
but it was really a evolution, transformation over several years of me developing the service and then starting the company around it.
So what were you doing like prior to it? When you say developing the service, what do you mean?
Yeah, so I left public accounting to be the contract CFO for a venture capital fund and some portfolio companies, and then gradually added more clients in that area. And so I didn't see myself as a business owner or anything like that. I was just contract CFO looking to get work done. And these companies weren't big enough to have an accounting team. So I was the accounting team. And so I was their CFO, but was also the bookkeeper and the payables clerk and all that. And so I started hiring offshore. Again, not building a business, just looking to get some of the work done.
For like bookkeeping and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just do the bookkeeping, the data entry, the day-to-day stuff to free me up to take on more clients and do the CFO work.
How did you find the offshore talent?
So I can't remember how I came across it in the first place, but it was 2012, which is really early. And
I was going to say that is early.
Yeah, especially for small business offshoring. Yeah. But I just heard of the concept in passing somewhere. And I think I went to Upwork and found a couple of people in India.
That's cool.
And then I found someone in Pakistan. And then in 2015, I discovered the Philippines, and I've been all in on the Philippines since then.
Yeah.
So with that having that team there, just a few people helped me really conceptualize the business itself of creating the whole accounting department for other companies. And in 2017, it's like, hey, I think I've got something here. And it was funny because I was just heads down building. I had no idea what else was going on in the industry. I just thought I was making it all up as I went. And it was 2017. I kind of poked my head up a bit, went to an accounting conference and started talking to people and realizing with the advent of online software and technology, it was kind of birthing this whole new industry of, it could be called cloud accounting, where you handle the whole, CFO and accounting function for virtually for companies. And so I just came in right at the right time.
So did you build a product? How did you build the software?
So it was all off the shelf. My background is in information systems first, not really accounting. I kind of picked up the accounting after. And so that helped me think in terms of systems. Because a lot of the accounting is really antiquated. The billable hour, no really incentive to be efficient or streamline things. And so I took my systems background to putting together off the shelf software and using that to create efficient processes and put them together. But it's all about the system, not necessarily in
Yeah.
building my own product.
Yeah, like actually like figuring out how to organize it and not get yourself in trouble. You can get yourself in trouble pretty quick.
Yeah. It was really the mid 2010s, I guess you call it, when all the online accounting related software started becoming usable. And the shift from desktop to, QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online.
How funny is it that we still call it QuickBooks Online? We don't. They call it that.
Yeah.
Like, just call it QuickBooks. Like, how is it still called QuickBooks Online? Who's doing the CD anymore?
Well, believe it or not, there's still a pretty big market for the QuickBooks Desktop.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But
oh my gosh.
It's definitely
weird.
Yeah, it's definitely on its way out. But yeah, so QuickBooks Online, Gusto, Bill.com, Divi, all these companies that popped up in the online space really enabled that kind of a new generation of accounting services to come along.
And so you get, like, did you say like 2017, you're like, this is where I'm going all in on this. At what point do you start branding it, start like really turning it into like a company and start getting some wins?
Yeah, this is really where Brandon enters the picture.
Brandon Craig.
Yeah. Because up until that point, I had really been a technician. It's like I, went into accounting, went information systems first, into accounting, and I was, thought I was a business person, but really I was just a technician as far as delivering these CFO services. And I started thinking, okay, what do I need to do to expand this just beyond myself? And when I met with Brandon, I sat down with him in a restaurant and kind of gave my pitch about what I do and who I was. And, as you know, with him, he really started digging into who I am, what are my goals. And I started telling him my background and really where I was at that point was I had a great life. I was making good money. I was taking care of my kids were in their kind of mid-teens, and I was starting to kind of turn around my health, and all these things were really important to me. And I couldn't see the path to actually creating a business.
Yeah.
Kind of just beyond me as a practice. And somewhere during the conversation, Brandon looked at me and said, well, why can't you have both? And such simple words, but it just hit me to the core. Like, yeah, why can't I do both? And so that really set me on the trajectory of building a business. And, 7 years later, 6 years, whatever it is, I, have a better family life, better health, better lifestyle, everything than I had back when I was doing it all myself. And so that was kind of the beginning of the transformation from a technician to a business leader. And it's still, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of that transformation.
We should probably tell people who Brandon Craig is. I've interviewed him, so we should link to that show in the show notes of this one so people can get a better sense. I think I interviewed him for about an hour. How would you describe him? He's a coach, I think, is probably the way a normal person would describe him. I'm not sure that's
doesn't really captures
what he is.
Definitely not. But I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Executive coach. He has a coaching firm where he does individual coaching, puts on a course, leadership course, other related leadership development type programs. And I don't know how to describe him other than what he's done for me. He's helped me to see who I could become. And it's not just one thing that resonated with me when I first talked to him and went to his course was the idea of becoming a leader, not doing the things that leaders do. And I'd been a pretty good student, in college and read a lot.
You have to be to get, CPA and all that stuff.
For sure. Yeah. You learn a lot of stuff and a lot of tactics. And especially as I was transitioning from a technician where lots of rules and systems and things to do to translating that to leadership. I'm like, hey, what are the tactics? What's the checklist? Like, what does it look like to be in a business meeting? What does it look like to hire someone? And I was really in the tactics. And when Brandon came along, he helped me see, no, it's not like, tactics may be helpful kind of running in the background, but really what's important is who you are, like being a leader. And it's easy to say, it's really deep of what that actually means to me now. But that's what caught my attention in the first place and has helped that transformation of actually being a business leader, not just doing business leader things.
Yeah, Brandon goes deep on being and what that means in his context and his work. He says this thing that caught my attention as well when I first heard of him or met with him. I can't remember which. He said, "Who you're being has an effect outside of you." It's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
it took me like a week to decode that.
Yeah, and
it's kind of wild.
I'm still decoding and I'm still attempting to live it day to day, like recognizing that who I'm being in a meeting, even if it's a Zoom meeting, has an impact on everybody else that is there, regardless of my position. I happen to be the CEO, so that has some kind of impact just based on that. But anybody can have an impact around them, regardless of their formal position.
Yeah, he said something like, say you decide to stay in bed all day. That has an effect.
Yeah.
Like where you are has an effect. It's like really interesting.
Anything you do, anything you don't do has an impact.
Anyways, like we're talking to him about him like he's a guru or something. I don't know. He's not like a Tony Robbins figure for those. Like I really don't know how to describe him.
I don't.
Everybody should meet him. It's ontocore.com. Check it out. And again, I've interviewed him, and you can look at that. So when did you start seeing some success? Like from the business side of things? From
the business side. So really immediately, there's a whole lot of context and chain of events. But when I met Brandon, when I looked at, okay, now it's time to get serious about building a business, I came across a partner of Tanner, the regional accounting firm. And we started talking about what I was doing, what they were looking to do, and realized that what I had built in a kind of a tech forward, modern accounting service, they were looking to add to their firm. And so we created a joint venture, and some people may be familiar with Tanalytics. And we did that for just a little over a year. And that really kickstarted the growth, the Tanner name and the relationships, and helped get some early client traction and attract some employees. But we discovered just after about a year that the synergies between their client base and ours were not quite aligned. And so I ended up buying them out, bringing on Shane Rowley as a partner.
Yeah.
He was early CFO of Owlet and has been in the community for a long time.
Owlet's office used to be right here. I'm sure he's worked here, in this exact space where we sit now.
Yeah, he was there close to the beginning, if not right at the beginning. So he's been a great partner. So I bought out Tanner and brought in Shane at the same time. And we really, it was a point of maturation from the company. We rebranded from Tanalytics to Nimble, which I think has been a great name. If I'm my unbiased opinion, as it describes like helping companies, business owners be nimble in how they run their businesses. But and Shane also brought a dimension of he was a tax guru, and something I was kind of dabbled in but wasn't super strong in. So I brought the systems and the accounting operations part of it. He brought in tax and his background in VC and CFO, and he's a CEO of a VC-backed company for a while. And so we kind of built on the momentum of where we started with Tanalytics, and it's really been a steady upward growth trajectory since then.
What's the ideal client for you? I mean, what size of company is it? Would that be why it probably didn't work with Tanner? They have bigger clients.
Yeah.
And you're probably more on like startup, small business side of things?
Yeah, for sure. So Tanner focused more on the mid-market. Yeah. Most of those companies would have their own accounting teams, and there are services that supplement internal corporate accounting teams, but that wasn't what we did. Really, our sweet spot is where we are the accounting department, where companies aren't big enough to need their own or to want their own. And so our sweet spot is close to, 1 to 5 million is usually where we start, and then we help them grow beyond that point. So 1 to 10 million and beyond. We've took an e-commerce company that has some local roots from 2 million to 100 million into their exit. And we took a SaaS company out of Silicon Valley from a startup to an $80 million exit. So we can grow pretty far with them. But usually we like to get in just above that 1 million mark, where under 1 million, you can get away with a lot with accounting. You can kind of scrape by, have it pretty messy and not have too big of consequences. But once you start getting above that point, you need to have some more sophisticated systems in place. And that's where we come in, is become that team. And a lot of companies in that range, they face the problem of who do you hire? You're either under hiring for underpaying for someone who really can't handle the higher level things, or you're way overpaying for a CFO who's going to do it like I was doing the bookkeeping and the clerk and all that kind of thing. So we provide that full finance team for the cost of usually less than one person. And then we scale up with them.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world for a small business or a company to do that rather than try to do it in-house or do it yourself, or, all the million things that get everybody in trouble. We've all heard all the horror stories. It's a pretty critical piece of running a business.
It is.
Right?
And not all business owners appreciate that. A lot of our best clients are repeat business owners who have made mistakes in the past.
Yeah.
They're like, I made a mess, and I'm going to hire someone from the beginning this time because I know how bad it can be if I don't pay attention to this. Or if they've hit some kind of trigger point on their journey. Like, they start first time founder and they get a sales tax audit or a IRS audit, or they start realizing, where's all the cash going? I'm profitable, but I have no cash. What's going on here? And so those are good points to come in. We don't love when they get to that point because it's pretty stressful, but it's a good selling point for us to come in and help them clean it up. And
show what shit you can do, for certainly. How many employees do you have now?
So we have about 40 across the US.
Okay.
And then about 60 or 70 in the Philippines.
What about the Philippines makes them so great?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I discovered is they are very culturally US centric, and they really respect the US, and they learn English in their schools growing up. So they're fluent speaking in English, communicating really well. They tend to be, culturally, and broad generalization, of course, but very loyal and hardworking, and just really appreciative of, take a lot of pride in working for a U.S. company. And yeah, that's what really has worked well for us in going there.
What have you learned about leadership since you started running this company?
Oh, so much. And I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. I've learned that it's not all up to me, but it's all up to me. Like, as the leader, I set the tone, and I'm the limitation in the company. If I'm not up to staying ahead of the growth, then we're not going to grow. And the more I build myself and progress myself, the further the company goes. And it doesn't by any means say I'm doing everything. No, it's the team executing on it. But I'm kind of the bottleneck, the limitation, the enabler of the business. So I've put a lot of focus, and this has a lot to do with my work with Brandon, and really what's kind of been a surprising part of the journey. I didn't realize this would be so important to me, but I've discovered that really it's all about my personal progression as a leader, and then the progression of my team as leaders. That's really what the business is all about. Like, we provide a valuable service, and we're providing great things for clients. But it's really about that personal progression that then cascades to all areas of life. I become a better leader in the business. I'm a better father at home, and my health is transformed just as kind of like almost a byproduct of progression as a business.
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about the health thing. You've mentioned that a couple of times now.
Yeah. So when 2017, I've always been fairly active, but I was always prioritizing everything else above my health. And I really discovered how integral my energy, especially as I got older, it's just all how intertwined it all is. And it was in 2018, just as I was starting actually the first year of that business, I was just heads down, and it really kind of took a backward slide in health, gained a lot of weight. And end of 2018, I'm like, no, this isn't working. It also helped that Brandon called me fat. So he has a way of, in a little bit nicer words than that. He noticed my slide. So from that point, I hired a personal trainer and lost about 50 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Started bike training and weight training, and just really turn myself around in that way. COVID summer was helpful because I had lots of time to be on the bike. I would go out on 100, 200 mile bike rides and train for a long race and things like that. So, so biking and running, weight training has been really a foundation. Of course, eating well has really transformed my health, and it's made a huge difference just cascading in all areas.
Yeah, it certainly matters with your energy and how you feel each day.
Sure.
It's pretty wild. Where do you want to take this? I mean, how big do you want this to be?
Yeah, part of the challenge of growth is getting to a certain level of scale. Like we were in the messy middle for a long time, where it went from me as solo to wanting to build a leadership team and attract great people, but being in that middle of not necessarily being able to afford that. And so we've got to the point where we have a leadership team in place covering all the functions, but we don't necessarily have the scale that I would like to have to feel like we are sustainable, but just to have you kind of grow into that leadership team that we built. So I feel like doubling our revenue, which is a couple of 2 or 3 years away, will allow us to build into our current structure. And then from that, I see that as a checkpoint. okay, what do we do from there?
Mm.
Really what's most important to me is that personal progression and the progression of my team. So I always want to be growing at a rate where we provide that opportunity. There's, the possibility of just completely slowing down and just having it be a lifestyle business. But what I've learned about that thought is that it doesn't provide opportunities for my team.
Mm.
My team is in there to be able to grow, and it may provide a great business for me, but it's not giving my team an opportunity to grow. So for me to be able to attract great people that want that growth, we need to keep growing as a company. And so I think that once we double, then it'll be a checkpoint. Like how fast can we grow that will fulfill on that, and how fast can we grow to take advantage of the market opportunity?
Yeah.
Because the market for small business accounting is massive.
Yeah.
It's basically essentially unlimited.
Yeah.
And so how much of that are we have the appetite to capture?
Yeah. Are you a fully remote team?
We are. Yeah, we've never had an office.
Really?
We were remote before remote was cool.
Yeah. What's it like to manage a fully remote company?
It definitely comes with challenges. Really having a cohesive culture has been a challenge. We've had to be intentional about how do we do that. And I can't say that we've cracked it for sure, but it's something we're very intentional about. We have a really good people leader who, he was actually an intern at Tanner, and his name is Grant Collins. And he did accounting, but discovered he doesn't like accounting. And so way earlier than it made sense to have a people leader full time, he kind of took the reins of figuring out that exact thing. How do we create a cohesive culture, and how do we create a people experience that keeps people engaged? And so I think what really works well for us is partly because we've always been remote. And so we've always attracted people who want that lifestyle. It's not like we were in office and then all of a sudden we went remote, and people had to adjust. So we have a lot of stay-at-home moms, for example, who want to be with their families, but also want to have a fulfilling career opportunities. And so we're able to deliver on that for them. So yeah, it's a combination of creating that intentional people experience and then also targeting people who that works for. We don't recruit a lot of new grads, partly because a lot of our entry-level positions are handled by our Philippines team. But also I think that new grads benefit from that in-office experience and that in-person mentoring. And when we have hired some new grads, and we've had to be creative about how do we make sure they have that development. Like we have our IT manager came right out of the BYU Information Systems program, and we got him an office in the Kiln. And so he has that kind of that network and that the people around him, even though it's not directly a Nimbl office, he still has those people around him to interact with.
How important is Utah in all this story?
Yeah, it's really our foundation. That's where at least a quarter of our team is in Utah, and a lot of our client base, just because the relationships are here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the culture we've created here is very similar to what a Silicon Slopes kind of company would create, and we're looking to expand that. And yeah, so I think it pervades everything I do. It's who I am. It's who Shane is, and so that's a big part of our team.
What's the most important thing you've learned from Brandon?
That's a good question. I think the definition that he shares of leadership runs through my head almost every day. And on the spot, I'll see if I can get the wording right. But basically, leadership is creating a future that wouldn't happen without you, that takes into account the needs of all the relevant stakeholders. And so what I've seen in myself and seen as what leadership is that it's creating that future. It's having a vision of the future. It's seeing yourself as someone who's capable of creating it and accessing whatever resources and whatever you need to create that. But also, it's not just a selfish thing. It's not just, what's best for me. What do I want? It's who can I rally around me that shares those similar goals. Part of our people experience, we have our certain points that we outline as part of how we define our people experience. And one of those is creating alignment between fulfilling on the company's goals and the personal goals. And so we want people not just to be all in on the company at all costs, but find a position and find a intention for them that fulfills on their own needs, their own career goals, their own family, their health, whatever that fulfills on, to fulfill on both at the same time.
Yeah. Finally, we end every interview with the same question, and that is, we believe the chances one gives is just as important as the chances one takes. When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
I would say my early clients, who gave me a chance when I didn't have a whole lot of experience, and they let me take them on. They let me learn and gave me feedback along the way. So there's many that I could share, including Brandon, who we've already talked about, but I think the early clients come to mind.
It's incredible. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. Seriously, congrats on everything you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you having me.